Oh, sorry. Didn't realize that we were live. Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Undertaker 365. I'm your host, Jacob Vandenberg, a licensed funeral director here at Vandenberg Funeral Home. This is our viewer discretion advised message. Please, this information and video and content we're just giving to you as a viewer should be taken as an advisement that we are talking about some serious issues, serious content, and viewer discretion is advised. So please read our message, follow us. Understand that the information that we're giving to you is solely my opinion, the opinion of Undertaker 365 and myself, Jacob Vandenberg, as well as the field experts that we bring into our content, into our series. It's their information, it's their opinion, so we are advising you that that is solely what we're doing out of full transparency. Really hope you're enjoying the series, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey, welcome back to Undertaker 365. I'm your host, Jacob Vandenberg, a licensed funeral director. On the outset, let me go ahead and say I'm sorry. Today we're driving in a car, and it is quite windy out. So if you're hearing any background noise, let me just go ahead and apologize on the front end for that. Today's episode, you're going to be getting a little bit of a dose of what's happening with different staff members and the services that we're providing during this pandemic. You're going to see a full, what I would call a full serviced graveside interment of a casket into the ground. We are going to do our new weekly drive around with an Undertaker, so question and answers. The more questions are coming in, we continue to respond to those the best that we can. And then there's just another more service calls from the funeral home and myself to make, and today we're traveling down to Kankakee to a hospital to go ahead and transfer remains into the care of the funeral home. So again, I encourage you, if you like what you're seeing and listening to, please go ahead and like and follow our page. Our episodes come out Thursdays at 2 p.m. And again, our job is to continue to inundate you with funeral home information, whether it be from myself or from field experts. And that is that. Hope you enjoy the episode. We'll talk to you soon.
It's a long procedure.
Hi, I'm Mike Grabowski. I'm a funeral director and embalmer here at Vandenberg Funeral Home. We have a case today that we're going to be going to a hospital to pick up a COVID positive deceased who passed away of the COVID-19. So I am just getting together a PPE package for us to bring with so we can properly protect ourselves from any contagious disease, anything that may be airborne, to basically keep us safe from anything we may encounter. So putting together the PPE package, I'll kind of go through everything that we take with us to the hospital to keep us protected from anything we may encounter. So the first thing with the package is your hair bouffant, which we will basically put on top of our head just to keep our hair and so forth just protected from anything in the air. We have our N95 face mask, which just goes over the ears and around the neck, protecting our nose and mouth from inhaling any kind of respiratory possible droplets, anything in the air, protecting our respiratory system. It's going to be our nitrile gloves, which are a little bit heavier duty gloves that we will wear just to protect surfaces of the skin from anything we may encounter. Our booties, just basically disposable booties that will go over our shoes, keeping our shoes and anything not to come in contact with anything on the floors, anything throughout the hospital. And then our gown, our regular full gown that will cover our clothing from neck all the way down to basically your calves, keeping us fully protected from anything that may come in contact with our clothing, with our skin, anything that's not exposed, that's not covered and would be exposed to any of the surrounding atmosphere. So we're going to be, final is going to be our face shield, which will basically kind of go over the head like this, protecting our face, nose, any kind of skin, anything else that is not covered by any type of protective gear. So we're going to put this package together. Once we get to the hospital, we will have our mask, our gloves on when we do go inside and meet with the expirations office to do the paperwork that we need to do to secure the deceased. We'll return to our car and then put on the full PPE uniform and then proceed to where the deceased is at and go ahead and make the removal. Upon the completion of the removal, everything will be packaged, bagged up, and it will be disposed of in the medical waste container.
Just got back from a local hospital family that called for our service. Unfortunately, their loved one passed away from COVID-19 coronavirus. So we're taking obviously some additional steps to our safety and the safety of our staff. We're going to do a thorough cleaning of the removal vehicle at this time. Just a very standard disinfection solution via a pressurized pump and sprayer. And then once we're done doing that, go ahead and take off all of our PPE and then do a thorough decontamination of ourselves and begin the next step, which is going to be most likely in this case putting back PPE on and then proceeding with our embalming procedure so that the family could have their final demise.
The next day.
This is unbelievable. She just came back on and said that they talked to dispatch and that there's some unsafe conditions somewhere in the area. That's why they're rushing to do it. But she's trying to get a hold of the field, find out exactly what, and then if they can delay it at all.
Or isolate it so that you're not whacked, but I don't. Josh said he was gonna drive around and look.
It's got to be something right here.
It's gotta be this way.
This is our pole that runs this
Right.
way along Harlem. Typically, when I have problems, it's behind these two houses. There's a see, look at the chimney. See the
Yeah.
cross right above it?
Yeah.
That's a power line going that way. There's always problems.
Look at that, you're still taking care of me. You're alright.
In the midst of crisis.
In the midst of a crisis, you're taking care of me.
I gotta get a backup generator.
Another one.
No,
Like a gen wreck.
yeah. Problem
They
is, I
got
don't know-
deals on them right now.
Problem is, I don't know where to put it.
On the side.
Somebody yanking it.
No.
Oh yeah. That's
mean-
why I put the cameras over there, because they were taking condensers.
Okay, but if you think about it, all the outside ones at houses are actually outside on the side of a house.
I know,
Not,
but not on Harlem Avenue. Commercial. It's got to be by next to your natural gas line too, right? It's all run by natural gas.
I believe so, yeah. So where does it
On
get
the
you
side
close
over there
over here?
by Harlem, by the handicap spots.
So I'm wondering if we put it in the back in here. You know what I mean? Like maybe even
You put those inside.
no, but what I'm thinking is put it on this side of the garbage fence.
Yeah.
But then, you know,
Then dig up the parking
Then
lot.
you're gonna have to-
Pipe the.
yeah. I mean, you don't have to dig all that way. I mean, you can just go, you know, right along here where they just trench a portion of it, but then you gotta repair the drive.
This is Jacob. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. I'm sorry. I had to transfer the phones because we're about to lose power at the funeral, so I forgot that I transferred the phones. I'm sorry. What's up?
This is right there. And you've got those bushes right there. So right where the handicap sign is if we take two of those bushes out, you can put that generator right there, and it's buried and you won't see it because of the bushes and the height of the bushes. The only way you would see it is if you
Yes.
go
I
down.
appreciate your patience.
No problem.
Okay, so our dispatcher is trying to get in touch with the contractor. As soon as they're able to get in touch with the contractor and see if we can schedule for a later time, they're going to send me an email and then I will contact you.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds
Is
good.
there anything else I can assist you with today?
That's it for right now, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I appreciate your help.
Oh, welcome.
Funeral homes already have a negative connotation about a black cloud being over it all the time. I mean, we have a horrible situation this morning with a husband and wife that we're having services for. And I get an email from our electrical provider. I'll leave their name out of this. At 7:54 in the morning, that they're planning on doing a short notice emergency planned outage for an hour and 35 minutes, starting at 8:15 in the morning. So they literally gave me 21 minutes notification time. This is smack dab in the middle of the service that we're having this morning. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And of course, you don't plan for things like this, so try to work with our friends at the power company to see if we can get something delayed an hour. Got my brother running to get a couple backup generators so that we could at least have some lighting in the chapel and possibly run the Zoom conference. I don't know. Water's all I got today. So the ComEd just called back, and now they've confirmed that it is an emergency and that it's unsafe conditions, and it's going to impact 256 customers, is how they put it. Yeah, I know. There's not really much to say, except for I suppose it's time to start planning for a backup generator if this is going to become a normal situation, of which it's not. This might be the second or third time in the history of our funeral home that there's been a power outage during a service. So, yeah, I guess we're just going to have to watch the clock and see how long it takes, and hopefully it doesn't impact too much the funeral service for this family this morning. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's just kind of, it's gut-wrenching to begin with because of the situation at hand with a husband and wife. How many more curveballs could be thrown at the family and the funeral home, for that matter? It's bad enough having to set up and hard enough to set up for one service. Multiply that by 2, the stress it's putting on our staff, the stress the family has given the circumstances, and then now you're going to have this just uncalled. It's uncalled for. I wish it would have been planned out, but what can you do?
What do you need? Yeah.
I got some in my garage. What, how long from what to what?
We're running from the generator into the chapel, so from in here to the chapel.
Okay.
So probably one of just the couple of long orange ones, right?
I got some Clark W. Griswold specials.
Some Clark W. Griswold specials. Where's the generator?
In the back of my truck.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to get it cranked over. Vandenberg Funeral Home. Hello, Vandenberg Funeral Home. Hi, Cheryl. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. No. We'll be long out of here by that time. That's great. Oh, all right. Sweet. Well, let's just leave this up just in case. But
When are they?
praise you, Jesus. You
What-
answer all prayers.
When are they cutting it?
11:30.
11:30 to 1.
Oh.
He does answer prayers. Hey, welcome back to Undertaker 365. This is Jacob Vandenberg. Today's drive around with Undertaker, we have, again, series of questions that have been submitted. I'm going to do my best to answer those questions the best of my ability. You're getting a lot of me driving around wheel time today. We have several pickups to make, transfers to the funeral home. So we got an abundant amount of time to try to answer these questions fully and accurately. What price points do we offer at Vandenberg Funeral Home? So we have answered this question kind of briefly before. This is kind of the harder conversation to have when you're discussing funeral planning. The funeral homes are businesses. We do operate by selling goods and services. So the financial conversation has to happen. Each funeral home is required to provide a general price list to the customers or the clients, families that are using your services. This is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, the funeral rule it's called. And part of that general price list, you're going to have an itemized list of services. Some funeral homes have gone through and packaged various types of funeral services. So for our funeral home, for example, we do have some packages put together. And what it is, it's really just combining services into a certain type of what we would call traditional funerals or cremation funerals, excuse me. And we kind of package them together so it's easier for folks to understand when they're looking through our price list. Some of them will be discounted if you if you pick this package. Some service items may be discounted as opposed to building a funeral service through itemized services. So there really isn't a specific price point except for the difference between quote unquote a traditional funeral and then breaking it down to various levels of different services from there. Yes, absolutely. As I explained earlier in a previous episode, the funeral traditions have changed tenfold over the last 10 to 15 years. They are more personalized. They are specific to individuals' requests, families' requests, whether that be, as mentioned, through personal music or family photos. Our funeral home does video tributes that are available to family, whether it be via a DVD that would be produced and played during the service, and or uploading it to our website so that individuals could go to the website and view it as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, funeral services are absolutely 100% personalized. Well, I mean, I think it's a simple answer. It's creating an environment that is inviting to people. They're going into a funeral home, so they have probably previous expectations, preconceived expectations, I should say, about what a funeral home is. And we've taken the approach that when people walk into our facility, we want them to feel as though they're going home, that they feel comfortable, that that the temperature is comfortable, that the furniture is comfortable and clean, and that everything is kind of in a certain place because that is what they're used to or expected. So how do we accommodate guests? We accommodate guests by providing an environment that's comfortable, warm, and inviting. Outside of that, we have family lounges that the funeral home furnishes, coffee service. We allow families to bring in cold beverages if they have, or small finger foods. And so, I mean, the idea is that the family wants to be comfortable and provide their guests a nice experience given the circumstances. So, back to the main question. How do we accommodate? We accommodate them by just providing them that safe, comfortable, warm, inviting experience. Well, I think we answered this as well, but I mean, what makes us different? We're in categorically speaking, there's two types of funeral homes. You have corporate commercialized funeral homes that have been bought out by a corporation, and then you have small family businesses that are still operating via a family member of some sort. So in my particular circumstance, it's still a family funeral home. It's my grandfather started it, my father ran it, and then a couple years ago when my dad kind of semi-retired, I purchased and acquired the funeral home and run and operate the funeral home with my brother and my father, who's semi-retired. So quite literally, what makes us different, when you're calling our funeral home, you're going to be dealing with a direct family member of the Vandenberg family, whether it be myself, my dad, my brother, our clerical staff. It's my wife's aunt who works as our clerical in the funeral home. Just the intertwining effect of having either direct or indirect family members working at one facility, and that I think is what separates us from other facilities. Don't get me wrong, family funeral homes, they're all pretty much the same when it comes to family working for them. What makes us different is just the level of service that you're receiving. I mean, every funeral home has their own little touch on how they do things differently. For us, one of the things that people mostly talk about are the appearance of the deceased and how very natural everything looks. It's been something that has been passed down from my grandfather on. We use very light cosmetic, in particular situations where we don't have to use any cosmetics at all, we won't. The other thing that a lot of people talk about that most funeral homes don't either do, or they do a smaller variation to it, is we generally speaking put an escort vehicle on every funeral that we do in a funeral procession. What does that mean? We have a dedicated service vehicle that has emergency lighting on, an emergency siren, and we act as an escort for that funeral procession. And just adding another level of service and quality and safety, and again making people feel comfortable. That I think separates us from some funeral homes specifically in the area. So that is generally on every funeral that we do. So I mean, I really can't. I don't want to go back and forth about what makes us different or better than others, and I don't think that's the case whatsoever. We all have different little quirks here and there that differentiate us from each other, but at the end of the day, I think when it boils down to the conversation of what makes small family businesses different than corporate businesses, it's that specific level of service you're receiving from a direct family member or indirect family member of that facility. There's oftentimes you hear conversations of families that have gone to a corporate run funeral home, where you may be dealing with one individual today, and then the next day when you call for something else, you might have another individual, or you have one funeral director who's handling the visitation, a driver of the hearse the following day, and then secondly, you'll have a funeral director that's handling the funeral. That's when you're dealing with larger funeral homes that are, again, more corporately run. There's an individual job assignment for each individual employee, and you definitely don't get that in a family business. You'll, at any given day, I'm sure you've seen it thus far, you're going to see the owner of the business cleaning urinals and toilets, and then you're going to see the next day cleaning out an ashtray out in front of the funeral. Then you're going to see him putting on gloves and mask and going and picking up individuals where they pass, and doing the embalming procedure, and then directing the funeral and making arrangements. So the basis is that we're doing all our work, whereas in other locations that are, again, more corporate run, they have individual assignments for an individual employee. So that's really the difference between the two. I'm not by no means saying that one's better than the other. Please don't take it that way. I'd just like to point out that there are some variables amongst the two categories. And then when it relates to the family businesses, again, small little quirks that differentiate our service level to somebody else's or vice versa. So with the rising popularity of cremation rites, most cremation facilities will allow families to view the cremation if they so wish. It's not what you're expecting it to be. The viewing purposes would be to see the container that the individual is placed in for cremation. You'll see that loaded into a crematorium. If you go back and look at a previous episode, we did a on-site at a crematorium, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So you're not witnessing actual cremation, but you are seeing your loved one placed into the crematorium. So that is a simple request that you can make to the funeral director upon your funeral arrangements. It'd just be a little scheduling, and then from that point, if everybody's on the same page and logistically speaking, yes, you could certainly see cremation take place. Caskets are not required for cremations to take place, with some exceptions. If you're having a visitation with the body being present prior to cremation, that will require a cremation casket of some sort, whether it be a rental or an actual cremation casket. The only times that you're not really required to use any type of casket would be if you're doing a simple cremation, which is no services whatsoever, the person's passed, brought back to the funeral home, paperwork is completed, cremation scheduled. They'd be placed in what they call a cremation container. Again, I would point you back to the previous episode regarding cremations, and you'll see what a cremation container looks like. So the answer is no, you don't have to purchase a casket as long as you're not choosing services that require it. So once the cremation is completed and they're placed in some type of urn or holding container, the funeral director will give you they should give maybe a document or two. One of them is going to be the actual permit from the cremation, and the other one will be what they call a burial transit permit. It's specific for cremated remains. So those two documents would be required if you're traveling via an airline or even driving in your car going across state lines. You're going to want to have those documents with you to identify that those remains are exactly what they are. The cremated remains of your loved one. As it relates to TSA and traveling through the airlines, it's relatively painless from what I'm told, as long as you have those documents with you. They may ask to look inside the container, of which you certainly can oblige to that, and just, again, explain to them that these are cremated remains. The same thing applies for shipping via the only means to ship cremated remains would be through the United States Postal Service. So your FedEx and your UPS, from what I understand at least, they do not ship cremated remains. The United States Postal Service is the only form that would be able to do that. So VA, meaning Veterans Administration. This is an extremely complex question because it's different for each individual service member, dependent upon the level of care needs that the individual member of the VA had going on prior to death. So my suggestion in this particular circumstances would be, discuss it with your funeral director, request veteran documents to be from the VA website or through the funeral. Sometimes funeral homes actually have them on site, so they can print them up and give them to you. And then really just the easiest thing to do is getting on the phone with the VA or setting up an appointment and going over the various resources available for the final funeral expenses for a veteran. I mean, they can range from anything from, you know, what do you get out of the VA upon death? Is it could be everything from the burial flag to a headstone application that could be submitted depending upon the place of burial. It could be if you're buried in a national cemetery. Those are all resources available to veterans, just depending on the scenario as well. Again, other topics could range from actual burial allowances. So, you know, depending upon what the veteran's getting before passing, there may be opportunity for the family to apply for some reimbursement for burial expenses. So, I mean, again, extremely complex, a lot of moving parts, as is anything when it deals with government. But your funeral director should be able to point you in some general direction to alleviate some stress. So one of the most honorable things that a funeral director could do, I believe, would be handling the remains of a veteran of the United States military. And that again, it doesn't matter the type of service, from the word, yes, my father, yes, my mother, yes, my husband, whatever the scenario is. Yes, they are a veteran. Yes, they were in the service. It really puts the funeral director in a state of mind like, I have absolutely no choice but to provide the highest level of service possible, and to give this person the most honor that they deserve. So, how do you obtain the American flag, the burial flag for a veteran? The number one document that's needed for any type of veteran services would be the military discharge paper, also known as the DD-214. That's D David 214. That document really is the end-all be-all when it comes to planning funeral services for a veteran. That document should be given to your funeral director. They'll make a copy, give you a copy, the original back. And then from that point, the director could obtain the flag through the United States Postal Service. That's usually where they get their flags from. That's where I get my flags from. Hot commodity sometimes to receive. So maybe there might be an episode in the future where you'll see myself or one of my staff members having to go to multiple post office to find a flag for a veteran, which always creates kind of a hectic day if that's the scenario. So how do you obtain it? Get a hold of your director. Let them know that you need a burial flag, and they have a form that will be filled out with the vet information that's going to be provided through the discharge paper that is required, and then they will handle obtaining that flag for you. There was a certain point in time where veterans either did not get their military documents or they were destroyed. In particular instances with the VA. So if the family is not able to obtain their documents, my number one suggestion is to do this prior to passing. There's so much stress that's put on a family when somebody passes away in planning services that this is an additional stress that you probably don't need. So if you're able to, please, before the veteran's death, please reach out to the VA, start a search for documents, and they're very wonderful on getting that information to the family. However, it does take some time. So, and then what I think all people will understand is that during funeral planning, timing and scheduling, logistics are certainly a part of our conversations. So it's important to try to pre-plan for that if you can. Pre-call, get that information going, and then you could obtain that through the va.gov and then go from there. So if the va.gov is not going to be the quickest response, perhaps if the veteran was a part of the VFW or American Legion, a veterans, some type of veterans group, perhaps they have record of it. So, you know, for example, my grandfather was in the VFW, 40 years ago. Usually when you become a member of that, you have to give them some type of documentation that shows that you were a veteran. So they may have one on record. So I would always recommend that first being the first point of contact. Contact your local VFW or American Legion, if the individual was a member of those one of those organizations. It's quite possible they have a document. Okay, well, there you have it. There's another episode of Question and Answer with Drive Around with the Undertaker. These are some great questions. I encourage people to continue to send these in. These are they should be educational for you, because these are all questions that relate to planning for funerals. And sometimes it's not as easy just to go on Google and Google search that. So it's good hearing it from the people that are dealing with it daily. I encourage you to continue to send those in, and we will answer them as best as we can. We are going to concentrate on the road. It's windy out. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.